So fall is here and you want to catch a muskie on a sucker. How do you get started? Well, let's start with the gear we're using. We are running a 8-foot heavy assault stick trolling / live bait rod. You want a rod that is going to have some forgiveness, some fiberglass in it. Straight up graphite, tends to be a little more weak under cold conditions. So we want something with some beef to it, yet has some give when you set the hook, a little bit of shock absorption. But I've got that with 80-pound braid on here on the Shimano Dakota line counter reel. You don't need a line counter reel. Sometimes it's nice if you're fishing really deep water or whatever. But a lot of guys run 100-pound braid. I just have 80. I'm kind of a wuss and I don't set the hook very hard. At any rate, so with 80-pound braid, I've got that down to a Thill big fish slider. And this is a slip bobber. So I can set my bobber stop knot at any depth I want to just kind of monitor, how deep you want the sucker. Typically, I want the sucker, say about maybe halfway down. As the season progresses, it gets colder and colder. The tighter I want it to be to the bottom with my bait. And then if you look up here, this is my bobber stop. It's a regular walleye, slip bobber stop, which was too small for this big a rig. So I ended up just breaking a rubber band and retying a broken rubber band as my bobber stop. And this is actually a bead from making bucktails. I couldn't find a bead with the hole big enough to actually get the 80 or 100-pound braid through. Anyway, that's the backstory on that. We've got I think 1.5 ounces, and that's like maybe a 3/4 ounce sinker. I do like to have the float where it almost doesn't float, almost neutrally buoyant, let's say. And the reason for that is it kind of adds a 3-dimension to the sucker, where it could actually dive down if it wants to, or obviously keep it suspended up above weeds or rocks or whatever. But I do like that sucker to be able to go up and down throughout the water column, and that's why I run it like that. So coming down from my braid, I've got a ball bearing swivel. Doesn't matter, I just know these are really strong swivels. I've got 130-pound fluorocarbon, and it's about yay long. I don't know, 3 feet, whatever. Not a big deal. But then here's the intriguing part here. I've got a number 5 split ring right here. This is a Worth split ring connected to another split ring. And actually, you can use a solid welded ring. It's probably better actually for this point of contact right there. And that's really your connection to the fish. And I just have that Lee Tauken knotted to that. That'll be another video, how to tie that knot to that number 5 ring and then to this number 7 ring. And this little doohickey here, this is how you actually connect the sucker to the entire rig. Basically, this is just a clip that you're going to spread apart a little bit. One of these will go in one nostril, one will go in the other nostril, and we'll show that in a moment here. And it just is the easiest way, even with cold hands. It seems to be a pretty simple rig. Years ago, we used the rubber band rigs, which were always kind of a hassle. This is definitely a better system. Okay, so moving on down here, I've got some short leads here of, let's see, 90-pound wire, 7-strand wire. I do have that crimped, and then in addition, I also have it wrapped. So what I do is I make the tag end outside the crimp about an extra inch long, and then I wrap that, don't ask me how, but manually by hand. I got tough fingers where I just wrap that all the way and then finish the wrap with a plier. You don't have to do it. It's just one thing I always kind of did growing up. That's where I started. You could use 2 crimps if you're kind of scared about your crimp or whatever, or you can tie a wire as well. I don't know the knot for that. This is what I've always done. So you got 2 different lead lengths too. That's another important factor. So you've got one shorter one closer to the head of the bait, one longer one obviously a little further back on the bait. And we'll be using like basically 12-inch suckers today. Obviously bigger suckers, you're gonna need to make these leads a little longer. Okay, for the hook, I've actually got a 3/0 Eagle Claw hook here. And this is definitely a modified hook. I've actually Whoa,
fish on!
Fish on!
All right, first musky.
Musky on! We are happily interrupted by a muskellenge. Little guy.
Little guy.
Steven is on the board with the little ski.
What does that mean? Okay.
Okay, we don't need suckers. Let's see. Maybe I'll hand grab him. Why don't you? All right, cool. Come to the back. Okay, so no, it's not a giant muskie, but we are on the board trying to shoot a video on how to use the sucker rig, but he just nailed this bait. This is kind of your money bait, right? You like this little, this is
OG pig.
The old school pig jerk bait. There we go. Hey, we are on the board. Nice work.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I got a good hold on him. I don't think you need a.
No, he's cool.
Look at the gold flecks on his back there. That is
cool.
so cool.
Some cool spots on the belly.
We just got out here. We've incorporated a muskie into the sucker vid.
Yeah.
Nice work, dude. Oh, I think it's going to be a good day.
Yeah.
Let's get this little guy back. Whoosh.
All right.
He is gone. I don't know. I got to get this sucker out here. You're sitting here reeling in muskies. Wow, that was some nice snot flying out of my nose. That should be good slow motion. Anyhow, very cool. On the board. Okay, for the hook here, I've just got a 3/0. This is an Eagle Claw hook that I have definitely modified. The first thing I do with this hook is I actually flatten it out or tee it like I would for crankbait fishing, all right? And then after that point, when the hook is straight across, I actually bend the hook upward. You know what? Let's grab a hook and show you how I do this before we get any farther. Okay, so back to the hook here. This is a 3/0. You just want a really super strong hook. You don't want it, you want it a 4X. Otherwise the hook's gonna bend on you. But let's take a look how we're gonna actually bend this hook. We're gonna take the hook in the pliers that way. And actually, let me back up. I'm gonna look for which hook is singular. A treble hook has one single hook and then two doubles. So I'm gonna have the single hook in the upward position like so. So the next point, I'll go like this. I got my pliers in place and I'm gonna flatten that out a little bit. So this is more the angle you're getting. See how this one is down yet and this one is flat now to it? So I'm gonna flip it over, grab the other hook, and I'm gonna flatten that out like so. And if you're not bleeding, you're not doing this right. So now we basically got that hook teed. And that's like what we would do for crankbait fishing as well. So the next point I wanna do is, the problem with sucker fishing is you wanna try to keep the hooks from going back into the sucker you're using. And this is how I do that. So I'm gonna flip it like this. I'm gonna grab the hook flat in the pliers like so. And then I'm just gonna bend it upward. Whoop. Kind of lost my grip there. Bend it upward a little bit. A little more actually. Like so. And now I've got that hook. See, if this was in the sucker, it'll actually be pointing away from it, which, you know, inhibits it from going back into your meat. All right, so we'll grab the other hook. We're gonna bend that up, and there we go. We've now got a perfectly offset stinger hook for your quick set rig. Okay, so for this part, you can see ahead of time I've actually taken a very heavy grade of heat shrink with actually epoxy or glue inside of the heat shrink tubing, and then just a small live bait hook like this, and just slide that over, and that live bait hook is just, you know, firmly in place. And this is what I used to attach the leads or the stinger hooks into the side of the fish, and it'll sit just perfectly like that inside the sucker. Okay, well, let's grab our first victim here. Okay, as you can see, I'm well prepared with no net for the sucker, but who needs a net? If you're gonna be out here, you gotta be able to man up and get cold. Okay, so this is not a huge sucker. This is probably a 12-inch fish or so. Nice and lively, that's good. And I'll just put it down kind of between my knees there. And I know this is gonna hurt you more than it's hopefully gonna hurt me, but I'm just gonna take that nose rig like that, go through all the way out the other side, take the other, make sure, there we go, just like that. Totally attached. That quick, that fast, super easy. Okay, this is the dangerous part. You got the hooks flying around. Okay, so here's our short lead. Get that around so it's all in alignment there. All right, so we just take that little live bait hook and we'll pop off a couple scales. Get that into the fish. There we go. Oh, yeah, here we go. It's still in. Grab our sucker. Put this one a little farther back down the fish. Oh, hazardous. I see he's already pulled the other one out. The one thing about these little tiny live bait hooks is they don't stay in really well. But the advantage of that is it's not hurting your sucker quite as much, and it'll last longer throughout the day for you. Put that one back in. 2 hands out into the drink. And look at that. This fish hopefully will not make it through the first hour, but he is just ready to go. Look at that. Looking good, looking good. And that is how you rig a sucker on a quick set for muskie in the fall. We're up here in the Northwoods of Wisconsin. We are in our last day of fishing here. Hopefully we can bag one of these big beasts. That would really make this trip. Make sure to stay tuned too, because we've got some more videos coming out here in northern Wisconsin.